to people what I thought I knew. So it was good. It was redeeming, I guess.
Well, I mean, your background is actually amazing. You have a record of 11 wins with 2 losses. Is that correct?
Yeah, it may be. I have about 20 or so more fights, but they were just, I was fighting since 95. We didn't really have, like, databases and stuff. So
Right.
I have a lot more fights than that. But, yeah, that's the ones that we keep on Sherdog. That's the records we use for the UFC, about 11 and 2. I think they actually count my loss to CB and Jesse on the show as 2 losses as well, possibly.
No, I don't think they do. They don't count those, actually. According to your record, 11 wins with 2 losses, the last loss you had was back in 2006. And then before that, it was back to 2002. So, I mean, you definitely have bragging rights, you know. They're not, you know, counting the losses from the show, so that's a good thing. And then you went on to have your incredible knockout the other week. So what do you have planned next?
Well, I'm going to Vegas for about 3 weeks. It's the last week of Forrest's preparation for Rashad. I went out there about a month ago and trained with him for about a week or so, and I'm going back for his last week just to help him kind of be comfortable and get ready for his last week. We're friends and we train together, so, you know, try to help him, support him. My wife's coming with me. We'll probably do Christmas after and, you know, start looking to the road ahead. But right now, you know, I just definitely want to help Forrest, you know, get that win and defend his title, and I guess I'll start thinking about me next. I'm really ready and able to fight anybody the UFC wants me to fight. You know, my job is just showing up and having exciting performances. I don't really care who it is against, really.
Now, you said your career actually started back in 95. You started boxing in the Navy?
Judo.
Judo in Navy. Okay, how
yeah,
so?
We had there were still fights going on back then, MMA fights, like in Mexico, and kind of some more underground stuff, just because it wasn't necessarily legal back then, you know. It was more of a rogue, renegade sport back then. So we fought still. There was just no real databases or people keeping records. It was just, we were just trying to keep the sport alive. You know, the UFC was going on, but other than that, all the other shows were very small. But yeah, I started with the Navy Judo team. My dad was a boxer, so I've been boxing and around combat sports all my life. But I guess when I started with the Navy was really when I really started judo and found Rodrigo and the Carlson Gracie team and really started training for real when I was about 18 years old.
Now, when you were on the show, The Ultimate Fighter, I'm sure you gained experience that was, you know, meaningful, and the exposure couldn't have been too shabby either. How much has that helped your career?
Well, the show changed my life. There's no doubt about it. I was going to retire in September of '07. I had a fight in the, you know, the largest coliseum, I guess, in the Louisiana area. It was at the Cajun Dome in Lafayette. And it was the main event, and that was going to be my last fight. I was finishing college in December, and I got a job with a huge oil company making great money, and I'm married. And, you know, at that point I'd been fighting, you know, over 10 years, and it just kind of got to the point where I wasn't seeing any way that I could, with my age, kind of convert it into something where I could have it as a career. You know, it was kind of getting time where, you know, either I was going to do this for a career or I was going to need to find something else to do. And I kind of decided that I was going to go ahead and retire after that fight. But I guess a day or two before the fight, my wife sat me down and, you know, just told me that there wasn't really time for me to quit yet, you know, even though it was difficult and times were tough, that she thought that was going to come around. And, I thought she was ridiculous. But, I took a couple more fights, and I, rattled off a couple more first-round victories, and, the next thing you know, the Ultimate Fighter calls, and I'm on the show, and, now I'm fighting regularly for the UFC. So, yeah, looking back, I was one little Cajun girl's conversation away from quitting the sport.
Well, tell her thank you.
Yeah, she's happy too. Don't worry. She reaps the benefits plenty. She's happy about it. But so and that's how life is sometimes. Sometimes you gotta take a risk. You gotta go out on a limb and put yourself out there. And so when I went on the show, I think I said it on the show. I wasn't trying to be cool. I wasn't having fun. I wasn't there for the girls. I was there for a career. Mm-hmm. Some people go to interviews for their careers. I went to the Ultimate Fighter. And that was really all I cared about, was having a good showing and showing them that I deserved to be there, and, eventually making it into the UFC and working my way up from there. And so to be at that point now, yeah, definitely, it's surreal. To be going to Vegas and help train a world champion for a fight that doesn't make any sense. I don't know what's going on. A year ago, I was working for an oil company.
Right.
So,
now, at the end of the fight that you won against Nate, I heard you give a shout-out to Maximum Nutrition, your sponsor. I'm interested in I'm asked questions all the time. What is a sponsor for? Why do you have sponsors?
Well, there are many reasons why we have sponsors. To be a professional athlete is very expensive. For us to take the right amount of supplements and to eat the right amount of foods and to get the rest we need and to be able to devote our time and our life to training for athletic endeavors, like the fight I had, that requires money, for us to pay our bills, for us to live our quality of life, and at the same time, be able to facilitate an environment that's conducive for a professional athlete in terms of nutrition and in terms of supplements. Maximum Nutrition helps me, in a whole bunch of different ways. Of course, financially, they help me with my fights and my fighting, of course, but more than that, they have a line of supplements that I take pretty much everything they have to offer. And, man, it makes a huge difference in my life and my training. The ability for me to not be sore. I experience a much different level of intensity in my practices. I can go a lot longer in training. The next day I can continue going a lot longer in training. I don't have as many injuries. I don't have as much downtime from just exhaustion. I have a lot better muscle content with my body, a lot lower fat percentage. It just keeps me on that next level that I really need to be on to compete, in a place like the UFC. I definitely wasn't the kind of fighter that I was, that I am now before, the stuff I've gotten from Maximum Nutrition. So they help me a lot of ways, but the biggest one is the supplements for sure.
Now, if other sponsors wanted to get a hold of you, what would they do?
Well, my management company is Denaro Sports. Mm-hmm. Rob Revade is my manager. It's just, you can just contact Denaro Sports at denarosports.com, and he deals with all that for me. I worry about the triangles and arm bars and punches. He worries about all that other stuff.
And where do you train at to learn all that?
Well, I've been training all my life. I've been to thousands of gyms all my life. I'm a black belt under the Carlson Gracie system under Rodrigo Medeiros. And now I have my own gym in Louisiana. We have about 15 or 20 pro fighters that fight out of the gym, but there's about 100 students that train here. And I do go back and forth to Vegas to train at Extreme Couture and with Forrest and them.
Nice. Okay, to wrap up the interview, what would you like to say to your fans?
Just thanks for the support, and I really appreciate everybody being behind me and believing in me. I'll continue pushing forward and, hopefully get some big wins in the future.